Welcome.
Here we are again.
Episode 5.
Here we are
Episode
again.
5. We're back.
Episode 5.
Boy.
Episode 5.
Have we got a cracker for you? Have we got a cracker for them?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gents, this week we have a really, really touching episode. A really sort of, it was quite humbling, and we've been out on the road. So we've been out on the road in Hastings. A lot of this episode will be built in and around a great venue that we discovered and we've mentioned previously on the podcast. It is not the hungry chef. It is the grumpy cook.
Yeah, and it wasn't the grumpy chef either. Absolutely, the grumpy cook. Yeah, so we went down there. We journeyed down into Hastings and we had a chat with Barry and Georgia about what they're doing. But first, before we bring some of the fabulous highlights from that fantastic interview, I think it might be worth mentioning, Maz, a couple of things that we've got coming up soon. So we've got Wednesday, 7th of February, next Wednesday, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock, Hastings Library, the Let's Talk Men's Health event. So you can come join us as we're talking about sharing some of our own lived experiences and listening to some of the lived experiences of others as we journey through
we're gonna have
conversation.
Have some guests, aren't we? Not just us turning up, which we'll be signing autographs, obviously.
Absolutely, yes, we're thousands.
Well, I'm just going to put an X. But we've got some poetry, and we've got some interesting chaps turning up to talk about, as you say, their experiences, and we'll sort of give a bit more insight into what our project is as well. But 7 till 9, Wednesday the 7th of February, Hastings Library.
Pre-registration or pre-booking is required for that. And if you go to the ESCIS website, which is escis.org.uk, it will be linked in the show notes. And if you're watching this on YouTube,
don't make it easy for them. They should have written it down.
Yeah, if you hadn't already realised, there is an exam on this at the end of the show. So that is the Let's Talk Men's Health event. Rapidly moving on before the listeners drop off like flies because they're thinking, exam!
You think someone's listening?
Oh. David's listening.
David, so another So what we wanted to also tell you is that we've kind of we've regenerated the way we're doing podcasts. You see, we're in a slightly different scenario. We're not in the same room. This is a bit like being on a Zoom call, but an enjoyable one. Yeah. Where essentially you can't pick your nose and you can't fall asleep.
But it's suggestible that you don't.
Yeah, we can blur that out anyway. But David is in the background, and he's our producer.
Yep.
So essentially, we thought we should have someone to abuse during the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, he could be a foil. And poor David didn't know what he was getting into, and now we're in a live scenario. I can see him shaking his head. I think he's thrown his earphones down and he's walked off.
So welcome to the team, David. It's actually genuinely really exciting to have you on board. David has come up with some phenomenal suggestions on how we can sort of push the podcast forward and how we can sort of make some improvements and give it that much needed structure that it has been lacking in places.
I'm pointing at him as well.
I will zoom in. That will be zoomed in on the edit, and
I'm pointing at him, ladies and gents.
I have
a picture behind my head.
I have a few choice photos of David. I'm wondering whether I should edit in, if you know what I mean.
It's a bit like poor David.
If you can hear any noise in the background, it's my wife saying that it's the photos that she has, and she also agrees. Anyway, let's move on. So, Hastings Voluntary Action are recruiting. We have been saying for a while now about, there are ways for you to get involved, and this is a two-pronged thing. We have got the peer researchers to go into the community and talk to men about their experiences utilising the mental health services in and around the Hastings area. Fantastic opportunity. It is voluntary, it is unpaid, but there will be some sort of financial sort of compensation for your time. You can get in touch with John by emailing John at Telligen, john.co.uk. So that's John, spelt JOHN, at apteligen.co.uk, or you can give them a call on 07789 896 So let's move on and let us talk about what we have been up to. So, as we said, Maz, we went down and we had a chat with Barry at the Grumpy Cook.
We did indeed.
Last week, and he's doing some fantastic things. Providing unfortunately, a much needed service to the people of Hastings and St Leonards and surrounding areas, and just trying to fight food poverty in his own little way.
Yeah.
And you had a chat with Barry. I sat down and had a chat with him, but I did enjoy the conversation over the counter that you was having with Barry Maz. So, tell us a little bit more about that, mate.
Yeah, so we went down last week, one evening when they closed their doors so we didn't disturb the punters. And Barry basically sort of gave us a whole roundup of what the Grumpy Cook was about, how it sort of originated, where he was going with it as well, and essentially some of the stories, of the people that currently come into the Grumpy Cook, and some of their sort of personalised stories were really, really touching. So, the primary aim of the Grumpy Cook is to build an awareness around food poverty, which is becoming more and more of an issue in every town in Britain now. And even today, I was listening to the radio, and this is the 1st of February that we're recording this, and the radio was saying that the government was trying to sort of create some bailout schemes for a lot of the local councils around England and Wales and Scotland because they are so underfunded, and the things that are the immediate needs are the allocation of food, and people aren't able to feed themselves. People are below the poverty line, and it's a lot of people. And Hastings itself, and there's it's a lot of the analysis around food poverty nationally is based around sort of national statistics. So what are average earnings nationally? And the average earning nationally is, let's say, it's £33,000 per person. Hastings is £25,000 per person, so it's below the national average, and that's the highest sort of average wage in Hastings. So whether that's some a wage that some of you listeners are on, it's the issue is around that wage is it isn't really moving upwards somewhat, but a lot of the costs are moving upwards. So an average £25,000 would be, and off the top of my head, it would be take home out of that per month is £1,772. Good at maths, aren't they?
Sounds about right. It's interesting you're sort of talking about families, because there was one story, and David is going to line up the video for us in a second there, I think, but it's quite a touching, really quite heart-wrenching stories. It was sort of one of them stories. It's sad that it's necessary, but it was uplifting in the way that it sort of highlights the importance of what was going on. But it's about a story about the mother and the child. And David, if you want to play that video for us, we'll just have a quick look at it and just refresh our memories of what it's all about.
And I'll tell you one story. This really got to me. There was a young mum here back in the summer, and I looked over, and she was sitting over there, and the children had the £1 menu, and she was sitting there and she had nothing. And I thought, So I went over and I just said, everything okay? She went, yeah. I said, would you like a coffee while the children are eating? She went, no, it's okay. I said, Tombi. And she went, no, it's fine. I said, we started talking, and I said, look, let me get you a drink. And she said, okay. And I said, right, now let me get you something to eat. And she was she said, no, it's fine. I said, no, you're hungry. Let me get you something to eat. It is on me. You haven't got to worry about it. This is what this place is for. And she started to tear up. And I tried to comfort her. And I said, look, you really don't, don't feel bad. And she said, no, it's the kindness. And I said, well, don't worry about that. This is where you can come for that. Don't worry about it. And so we managed to get her to have something to eat as well. And then I had to go out and get something. And when I came back, she was standing here. And I said, "Well, can I help you?" And what money she had left, she wanted to pay towards somebody else to have something to eat.
Mm.
I went, "That's really kind of you." I said, "But that just puts you back in the boat where you were earlier because you couldn't afford to do that. So you keep your money. It's
Mhm.
fine. Honestly, it's fine." I said, "Let us help the other people." And she started crying again. And so, and I again, I had to comfort her. And I said, "Look, this is what we're about.
Mm.
It may be alien to some of you, but this is what we're about, where you can come in here. And if you are struggling, we'll help you." I put it on our Facebook pages and everything else. And the staff are on the lookout for that. If there are people that quite obviously, it's very unusual that you'll feed the children and not yourself.
Mm.
So, we're on the lookout for that. And I just want to help. It's as simple as that. And I was really pleased she brought the children out to be fed.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, nice one, Dave. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. But it is, it's the fact that that is a thing that is even necessary in 2024
Yep.
is incredible.
It's a shocker.
Absolutely incredible.
It's a shocker.
And it's sad, but her response, it wasn't so much the act itself, it was the generosity being something that she's not used to. And what does that say about us as a society where generosity is so alien? Do you know what I mean? But no, I think it just sort of highlights how important what Barry is doing at the Grumpy Cook, and how necessary it is that it allowed a child to actually be fed, and the mother who might have actually skipped a meal that day to sort of be fed as well. But I mean, that also leads on to, sorry, yeah, I was going to say, go on.
Well, one of the things that is about what's he doing, other initiatives, or what is he doing about it? And one of the things that we're going to play next is the Pay It Forward scheme. So they've got this. We're gonna play this video because it describes it brilliantly, better than me stumblingly describing it. But this, this is fantastic. So let's play this back.
Let's have a look at this. Yeah.
Come up to the till and ask to donate to the Pay It Forward board, whether they're ordering for themselves as well or not. So we've had it a few times where people say, "Oh, I'd like to buy myself a coffee. Can I also buy a coffee for the Pay It Forward board?" And that's for anything on the menu. So people have donated, as I say, coffees, teas, but also full English breakfast, jacket potatoes, kids' meals. And we have a whole selection of them, of the tickets up on the board that anyone can just walk in and bring it to the counter and ask for the meal to be made. We are strictly no questions asked. We're not going to ask to see your proof of income, if you're on benefits or not. That's not the point of this. The point of this is just to make sure if people are hungry, they get fed. We have a couple of other options as well, because we're well aware some people might not be comfortable coming and taking a ticket off the board and bringing it to the till. So we have got a menu behind the till that you can ask to see, or alternatively, you can ring up in advance and ask what we've got available on our Pay It Forward menu, and we will reserve whatever you choose for you. Yeah, we wanted to keep the board up to sort of show for, especially people that are donating, that it is working, and we do offer the meals you donate do get used and chosen by people. But yeah, we just wanted to make sure that there's no barriers in terms of stigma for people. If they want to eat, they can. There's no shame involved, nothing for it. They can just get fed.
And I think that, it just says it all. I mean, Georgia, what a fantastic character she was. She had me laughing. And she had you on the ropes, Maz.
She did.
She had you on the ropes with the old coffee training, mate. We're not going to sort of go into that one too much today. There are going to be clips on the socials.
We'll talk about that later, because that was my humiliating. That was when
it was
I was
so
humiliated.
Funny.
Well, I mean, one of the things that amazing, wasn't it? I mean, the Pay It Forward scheme is so simple. And it's so, and they worked out a way of not making it a stigma thing for people to walk in and, and be embarrassed to go up and ask for something for free. The stigma of it being a charity, and I'm waving my fingers in inverted commas, and it not being in a normal, because they've established like a normal cafe surrounding. So you couldn't tell, you could be sitting next to someone who has paid full. and the next couple or the next family aren't paying a thing, or they're paying, for a pound for a kid's menu. And if you saw, we flashed up the kids' menu on the screen. For those of you on the podcast,
just to
you'll
sort of
see it on the website.
show
Just
a little
to sort
bit of what was
highlight.
on there. Yeah,
for £1, you can feed a kid, a decent
that's it. It was like
breakfast,
jacket
and a decent meal.
potato, sort of cheese sandwich, all that sort of thing, and it is phenomenal. It's, and that's what Barry says quite a bit is, when people sort of come in, they don't know. The whole point is that people don't know whether you're eating for cheap or for free or for full price. One, it's none of anyone's business, but two, it's a cafe. Everyone's there eating. And, in this next video that Dave's going to sort of flash up in a minute, Barry is going to sort of talk about a little bit how, he's sort of trying to break the stigma in that unique way. He was also sort of talking about a little bit about what he's doing coming up because he's got one in Table 88 Cafe in Milton Keynes as well, hasn't he? And he's sort of trialing something up there. But yeah, David, if you can line up the next video for us, we'll have a little check out of that one.
I want to help feed people, but without that stigma.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I thought, well, the best way that I can do that is through a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you go into, if someone gets seen going into, I don't know, a church hall where there's a food bank, there's that, they were spotted.
Yep.
If someone goes into a cafe, they're going into a cafe.
No, exactly that, yeah.
And, when they come in here, you would never know in here whether someone's eating cheaply or free or pay full price. And so that for me was a must. That part was nailed on. So we had two bits. We're continuing with the over 65s, and we wanted to help feed people, but without the stigma. One of the other things, I'm going to Milton Keynes tomorrow to look at. Up there, it might be that we're part of a pantry.
Right, okay.
Whilst I'm against food banks and everything else, I'm thinking, well, if I had it in the cafe, again, anybody seeing you...
You're just going in to get a cup of coffee, ain't you? Exactly.
And if you come out with just a plain carrier bag or whatever, who knows? You could have been shopping and popped into the cafe. So... Amazing. So that might be another stage.
Yeah.
I'll see it up there, but it might be, the next stage here. I also want to eventually, if we get downstairs done, I want to try and put where you got the upmarket, the Gustos and everything else, where they will send you the recipes and the ingredients. Well, again, I want to do that, but maybe at like the low cost end, so that there won't be any food waste. So it's literally there's a meal for four, there's the recipe card.
Yep.
And the cost is like really low cost, and Brilliant. They take it away, and we want to back that up with videos online so they can see.
Yeah, link to YouTube's and that.
Yeah, how to cook it. And
wow. I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah, I know.
What is not to like?
The concepts there that he's describing are, very simple foods and very cheap and manageable foods. A lot of vegetables, creating broths or creating batch foods as well. So ultimately, making your money go further if you need to, but also creating actual recipes, but simple ones. And what he was saying was that he's engaging with Morrison's and Tesco's, and they're very, very supportive on supplying certain budget foods that could be used in those sort of recipes, and also putting almost like a place aside where that sort of selection of budget foods would be. Mm-hmm. So, it's about engaging as well. And he's got a very good sort of way of, trying to engage with some of those bigger entities to sort of see their marketing in that way to try and cater
He's such a clever bloke. He's such a clever bloke.
Yeah, so
I mean, the way that he is engaging, obviously, like in the podumentary, you'll sort of see the conversations that we both had with him, and the way that he's sort of choosing to engage with not only the local community but the businesses locally, the supermarkets. And he's actually got the supermarkets coming to him, with these things. And it was what he said about the recipe cards, which really resonated with me. What a phenomenal idea. Not only is he providing you with the food, he's providing you with the education and the understanding on how to put this food together to create something beautiful. Which actually sort of bleeds quite nicely into the next sort of couple of sections of videos that I really want to sort of talk about. And with this new format, we want to try and slay a few stigmas, which I think we've kind of done already, but we also want to break a couple of myths. And Barry is actually kindly enough breaking the myths for us in these sort of upcoming videos. And, where we're talking about the recipe cards and sort of learning how to put the things together, Barry's been doing a lot of hospitality training. We've got a few videos about that, but he's also talking about wanting to do, he also mentions in the interview, if he had a magic wand, he would want a kitchen downstairs to create a chef's school, which I think, phenomenal. So not only is he providing potentially the food, he's also providing the recipe card, he's also providing the education. The man is a one-stop shop in trying to sort of get people fed. This geezer is on a mission, and I love it. This next video that David has kindly lined up for us, it's just Barry just sort of explaining some of the hospitality training that he's been running and how he's been trying to break or resolve some of the stigma surrounding that.
A lot of what we do is, a lot of people that I want to come to us are those that maybe struggled at school and dropped out of school. So I don't want them to come in again to to feel like it's a classroom situation.
Yep. More hands-on, practical, learn as you go.
It's in a cafe environment.
Working environment,
and they're seeing, and again, if somebody sees them walking through into a cafe, are they going into a cafe? If somebody sees them going into, night school or college, what you doing back at college again? They may be embarrassed to say that. So
it's about removing the stigma before the stigma becomes an issue, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. It's such an incredible way of doing it. With what you've done to sort of reinvigorate in a way the hospitality industry, it almost breaks down a few of the myths surrounding people sort of getting back into that sort of respecking or reskilling or re-educating themselves, because I think sometimes it can be very daunting and frightening, for argument's sake, for someone that's been a plumber for 20, 30 years. They might go, well, I'm 50 years old now, I can't reskill. And what you're saying is, well, actually, hold on, it's actually really simple and it's not going to cost you anything. So there you go. Myth broken.
Broken myth.
Blam. The myth has not been busted for possible legal reasons. It has merely been broken. But in breaking, do you not also bust something?
I would challenge them if they tried to bust the myth that you broke.
Yeah, of this talk of training and hospitality, go for it, Maz.
It's built up. I mean, he then describes, and what we're going to show you next is the actual success story. So, to give you some more insight, he's now running, or he has been running, hospitality training in his cafe. Young people can sort of sign up for this. They get trained in all sorts of elements of front of house hospitality, and they get something at the end of it. And what we wanted to do is sort of show you how we sort of achieved that with some of the people that came to him.
Far away.
We've just taken on one of our trainees that went through our little system. She started this week. We're gonna keep her. She's really, really good.
Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what they get from that is they people can come along, get trained in health and safety, front of house, making coffees, operating the till, and also conversing with the general public as well. And they get, a certificate at the end of it that they can go on to another employer and say, look, I've got a certificate in, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm saying blah, 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 actually. It is an actual certificate or something. I must find out what that is. But at the end of the day, he's giving someone a skill base to go out into the wide world. And one person he's just describing there is actually sort of working for him. And a number of them have been through that. Georgia, who's now the marketing director we saw earlier, she was originally working in the cafe, pre-college.
Bale House, isn't it?
Yeah, Bale House up in Fairlight. Yeah. And if you
That
don't
is a
know where that is,
fantastic
everyone,
little place.
that's actually something to highlight, because he's started off in Bale House, which is where Fairlight, where the Coast Guard Cafe used to be, and there's a new building up on the cliff edge, virtually next to the car park. He's running that as part of this scheme as well.
So David has recounted the rather fascinating story that the Bale House has received its name by virtue of the fact that it is made entirely of hay bales, which provides its own sort of self-insulation. If it wasn't for his hesitance to be heard and seen, we need to hear you, David. Yeah. Do not deny the people of your glorious, glorious voice.
Well, at the moment, he's like Gordon the Gopher in the background. You know, we can see him. We can see him. You know, talking, and he's not saying anything.
David, can you flash up the link from the Hastings Council website and maybe show the public a little bit of the information that you're working with here? That would be fantastic. And here we go. So the Bale House, about the Bale House. It is, I mean, it's a fascinating story. And I think our very own Teresa from HVA was actually involved in some of the setup there. And it's a fascinating story. I would strongly recommend that, you know, anyone that's interested, find out a little bit more about it and maybe go up there. You know, I mean, there's multiple ways of supporting Barry in what he does. And why would you not want to, you know, because as we're going to sort of see, carrying on with our wonderful, wonderful story of the podumentary. I love that word. Thank you, David, for that one. The podumentary that we are working on and currently editing. A lot of Barry's vision actually sort of links quite nicely with what we have been discussing, Maz, since sort of day one of this project. And that is the concept of a men's room. So, David, play it again, Sam, Dave.
But it's the next step for me is to have like a men's get together. So we're going to try and do it, you know, maybe late afternoon, 5 till 7, something like that, and really like have a men's group where we can all sit around and talk about the things that maybe bother us, worry us, or not even talk about those things at all. I think again, it's trying. I will try and mirror what I did with the over 65s. We've got like a men only get together. It's free food, free drink, and you know the only condition is come here and meet new people, meet new friends. Open up if you wish to open up. If you don't wish to, if you haven't got the confidence, well, that's fine. If you have, well, that's fine too. You know, it's I want it to be that eventually that they're amongst friends. Yeah. And first of all, it's going to be that difficult stage where they just meeting someone and everything else. But as the weeks go by, they'll start seeing the same people. You know, whether I'll be here or other members of staff will be here, and they start to interact. They start to open up. And if they're worried about anything or need access to anything in the town, if they want to take up new hobbies and things like that, hopefully we can point them in the right direction. Yeah, you know, and that's all what we're about. That's all what we want to do. And there's loads of things that I want to do, but that's the next stage.
And one of the things that is interesting, because he's already running it almost like a lunch club for the elderly and over 65s on a Tuesday afternoon, I think it is. And it's predominantly women. And the only men that come along are the husbands of some of the women. But he says it's because women are much more open and much more sort of attracted to that kind of community sort of discussion sort of place and over a cup of tea. Blokes aren't. Blokes don't turn up. So he's trying to, trying to sort of figure out how to attract the blokes in a similar vein to come and have that sort of almost like not banter, but a discussion point and meet new friends, especially of a certain age group. But it's really hard, as we've discovered, men's rooms and getting men to talk and men to kind of collaborate in that way when they're strangers is really, really hard. But I think that could be a great venue, to kind of attract that.
Oh, mate, I mean, what a venue. It is centre of town. It's like 2 minutes from the train station. Yeah, okay, we are talking about, we are the men's room for Hastings and St Leonard's, but as we've already sort of acknowledged, this is spreading a little bit further. And, having that sort of location and having a men's room at the Grumpy Cook, or as you might say, a grumpy men's room. Thank you, David. It's going to sort of provide that wonderful, wonderful space. You are grumpy. Don't tell me that you're not grumpy, David. You are. Sorry, I wish you could hear him, people. It's just gold. It's just such a wonderful thing having David in my ears again. That
Or
sounded
Gordon.
so wrong. But yeah, so having that space for men to be able to come together, just have casual coffee. It's such a benign location. If you can't have caffeine, there's the caffeinated stuff. If you don't want milk, you can have black coffee. You got teas, you got cokes, you got lemonade, juice. Have a bite to eat, bacon sarnie, whatever. Have a chat, chew the fat while you're chewing on your bacon sarnie.
What's not to
Talking
like?
therapy, innit?
Yeah.
What's not to like? And just imagine, Maz, if you will, if from this one seedling, a beautiful tree of positivity might sprout. What if from this one seed, a beautiful tree does sprout and we could have a board game cafe? We could have a men's room there, a community meeting place for men that are interested in playing a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, perhaps a little bit of Warhammer 40k, a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, anything like that. It's a community centre. You've got the building. I can't remember the name of the church. His place, down at the top of Robertson Street. Having a sort of a thing there. We've spoken before, you and I, Maz, about village halls, how underutilised. Because, mate, the village hall up your way.
Yeah.
Churches. If we can get, if Barry and if we can help and we can collaborate with Barry to get this working and we can get this proof of concept going. Because as we know, as much as there are services available, and we talk a lot about, sort of grief counselling services or mental health services, there are these things available, but they're so overwhelmed. And this, again, with what Barry's doing, if this is telling me anything, it's telling me that we have to rely on each other and ourselves to be able to get any sort of thing like this moving. And the way that we do that is by galvanizing each other, coming together, joining this conversation and getting involved with it. Turning around and saying, well, that's a great idea. I've got a space which is free on a Thursday evening, a scout hall that is free on a Thursday evening between the hours of 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Let's have a men's meet up space there. That's all it takes. And all right, for the first couple of weeks, it might only be one or two people. But as soon as that ball starts rolling, the magic starts happening. Do you know what I mean?
And you don't just create a tree, mate. You create a forest.
That's exactly it. Thank you for continuing with that wonderful analogy.
Themed analogy. But you're absolutely right. I mean, what he's already, Barry, we're blowing smoke up his bum here, but he's already sort of way ahead of this. With his sort of initiatives, he's already got 4 or 5 major initiatives that help or potentially help 4 or 5 different sets of needy parts of society. The youngsters trying to sort of earn a skill on the reskilling piece, the older community having a meeting spot, essentially a safe space that they can meet at a certain time together. It's cost effective, and you've got essentially homeless or near homeless people able to eat and have at least a meal a day, and have somewhere warm to sit for an hour or so, and they're welcome.
That's right.
And they don't feel stigmatized. These sort of things are, things that don't get offered, even government initiatives, even, local council initiatives, they're not consistent. And he's got one spot, it's in the centre of town, it's a consistent place that people are welcome, and it's got great staff. And what we should mention actually is when he trains his own staff, and maybe it's one of the videos when we're doing our longer piece, he talks about the training program of his own staff are taking stuff to the table. So you put your order in,
Yes.
and then you sit down and they come and bring the order to you. You don't get that in
Yeah.
some of the bigger chains. So it's a very personalized experience, isn't it?
He's got so many plans. He's wanting to do a computer homework club. He wants to get laptops for the kids to come in and do their homework and have a bite to eat after school. He wants to get teenagers some hospitality training, to teach them how to have conversational skills. We're talking about working with adults or children or teenagers with autism or other sort of learning difficulties, to be able to help support them. It's but also you've got the human element of Barry and Georgia as well, because they do talk a little bit about their history. It was such an enjoyable conversation.
And
it really was, from
we
start to
spent
finish.
like 3.5 hours there, didn't we? One Wednesday night. And literally we'd got 3.5 hours worth of footage. So, and all of it was gold. And what we're doing at the moment is ruining a lot of that footage by talking about it and not showing. But at the end of the day, I think we need to be able to tell this story in manageable chunks, don't we?
That's right. That's right.
And I think
that's
it's so important, this kind of initiative, that it should be repeated like globally, if nothing else.
100%. In every town, in every county, in every single district, country, area, whatever. This is just something that needs to exist everywhere, because the only way, especially in the current climate that we have, the only way that we're actually going to be able to lift ourselves is by lifting ourselves. We need to come together as a community, we need to work together, and we need to be together. And the best way to do that is by what we always say: join the conversation, get involved, start a grassroots organization up yourself, get involved in what's going on in the community around you. Go out and talk to people that you think are lonely. If you're lonely, go out and tell people that you're lonely. So I think, unless there's anything else you want to sort of tag on to this, Maz, I think we will, because the episode, the full interview, it is currently being edited by this guy, and it will be done when it's done. But watch this space, and watch the socials.
Thank
We'll
you,
be
Film
referencing
Machine
the
Maker.
socials shortly. You are very, very welcome. It's the power of the beard that makes it possible. But all of this that we've been discussing and more will be covered in the #Podumentary. So
how do you get in touch with them?
I think so. Get in touch with the Grumpy Cook. You can find them on Facebook. If you go and find Grumpy at the Bale House on Facebook, or Grumpy Cook Hastings on Instagram, or you can just search for the Grumpy Cook Hastings on either of those social media platforms. They also have a website, www.thegrumpycook.co.uk. So check them out, follow them, get involved, get down there, go grab a bacon sarnie for yourself and stick one on the pay it forward board. That's what we do when we pop in there. It's just a nice thing, isn't it?
Trav, I went down there this morning. I had a bacon sandwich and a nice black coffee bacon sandwich, £3. And so then I said, repeat it again and put another £3 as a pay it forward board.
Right, so I think we have been mentioning a few things today. So we have got the opportunities that are coming up for if you want to get involved with what we're doing in the Men's Room initiative. There is actually an assistant community development worker for the men's health and wellbeing sector. You can find more information for that and other jobs on the Hastings Voluntary Action website, hastingsvoluntaryaction.org.uk. And Maz, as you have wonderfully referenced all of our social media, you should by now be liking and following us on all of our socials. And trust me, we are currently on a few. Find us on Facebook, Mr. HSL. You can find us on Instagram, which I believe again is, on Instagram we are Mr.H.SL. on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, then this is pretty much irrelevant. But if you're listening to us on Spotify, you can follow us on YouTube at Mr. HSL. And you can also listen to us on Spotify. If you are currently watching this on TikTok, you need to search for the Men's Room Hastings and St. Leonard's podcast on Spotify or any platform that you digest your favorite podcasts. You can also check us out on the TikTok too, hashtag TikTok too, and that is once again, I believe, at Mr. HSL. I'm just trying to bring that up because Mr. Producer didn't do this for me like I asked him
David.
to.
Gordon.
Thank you, David. I'm doing this on my own. I don't know why I bothered. But yeah, so at Mr. HSL on TikTok, I believe. And Maz.
Yes.
Would you fill us in a little bit on the LinkedIn, as that is your
LinkedIn.
domain?
Yes, we have a LinkedIn page.
The Linky Dink. We have a Linky Dink.
And the LinkedIn page is at LinkedIn. I don't know, David.
So,
David, it's in
linkedin.com.
Correct.
And that is, again, it's Mr. HSL on LinkedIn. So TikTok is at Mr._HSL. So if you have managed to find us in amongst any of that chaos, congratulations, you are far better than me, because I gave up the will to live when I opened my mouth to even begin that one. However, we can make this. Yay, David found it on the LinkedIn. To make this a little bit easier, if you go to our website, mensroom.community, there is a link tree containing all of these links. So I could have just saved a whole lot of time, but why bother? Why bother doing that? Yeah. I like to live miserably. I like to make everyone else live miserably. It's kind of my thing. It's what I do. But yeah, so mensroom.community will take you to the link.e/Mr. HSL, which has got all of our link tree on there. So you can also email us on Mr. Hastings and St. Leonard's at gmail.com. We are looking into getting a more permanent and professional email domain soon. Indeed. It's just a work in progress, as are we all. Aren't we just all a work in progress, Maz?
Very good indeed.
Isn't it just how we are?
Yeah.
So come back for the next one. In the next episode, we've got a couple of choices for the next episode. We're thinking we got Chris from Hastings Men's Network. Yeah. We want to have a chat with him. The premiere for the Men's Room film is going to be screening at the Kino, I believe, on the 3rd of March.
Yes, indeed.
I think that initially is a private screening for those that took part, as well as friends and family. But hopefully we may be able to sort of see if we can get some other screenings after that. I don't know. But after it has been screened, we will be talking about it, and we will be doing a similar format to we have today, where we're going to be watching some of the video together and having a little bit of a chat about it. And it'll actually be really nice to do that. With the director, yeah.
Yes, so
we'll get Francis. Francis will be involved. We're getting Francis involved in this one. He's going to sit down, have a chat with us about it. I love that geezer. He is such... I mean... We're talking about. We mentioned Francis, Maz. Why are you doing this to me? You know, we've got the monologues that we're talking about with Francis.
Yeah. Well, he's got loads to talk about. You know, in our space, Francis has got loads that he's going to bring to the table for us. So yeah, he's like. So
that is an exciting episode. I'm so looking forward to the episode with Francis. But we've got a lot coming up, guys. You know, so tune in for the next one. Watch out for the hashtag podumentary edited by this guy, which will be coming when it's done. And until then,
we're going to do a hug, aren't we? But in a very slightly different way.
We could do the virtual. I'll hug the laptop. Look, hugging the laptop, lovely. You know. But we did, at the end of the interview with Barry, we did have a little bit of a hug at the end of it, as is traditional, but it was a hug with a bit of a twist. So with that one, we'll say ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Until next time, and enjoy the ending. Later.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Well, unless there's anything else you
There-
want to
there
add,
isn't
I think
anything else.
that is an ideal place.
Hang on,
We have
hang on.
to. Whoa!
Let the wheels keep turning round. Let the headlights keep on kissing me. Let the rain keep falling down. Just as long as it keeps missing me.
Yeah. So, are you going to buy something or what? You've been standing here for ages.
Well, I was looking at your menu here.